Following Ravi is always a hard act to follow, right? It's an excellent speaker, but I'm glad we have such a fantastic panel with us. I think by now all of us are very clear that AI is not just the next fad. It's going to fundamentally change the way we look at work. And I always believe that the biggest unlock is going to happen in AI when we have the right imagination of where the value is. Actually, as part of a Satwa report that we recently are working on, the report tells us that actually there can be 6 million jobs that can be created for AI integrators who are actually between AI users and AI builders, who can just have the job of unlocking value from what AI can do. But given that you are our panelists, I'd love to then get your thoughts on the big question around how work is going to get fluid because of AI. Because it does seem like we are in the best of times, we are also in the worst of times. GCCs, there are about 1,600 of them in India today, accounting for 1.6 million people. And it is predicted that it's going to create jobs for 1.2 million more people. And the question in everybody's minds is what is going to happen to all those people and how are we going to unlock work? And I know we have limited time, so I'm going to jump right in. Andrea, first question to you. Someone made a very interesting point that a lot of repetitive tasks that AI is going to, that we are going to do today can be done by AI. And that's actually a massive opportunity, because then things that involve creativity, things that involve judgment and trust can actually go to people. In your role, how do you see this in terms of changing the way skills and people can make a difference to business?
Yeah, I think it's, first, thank you for the question, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I think it's quite the misconception that humans become less important with AI. I actually think it's an extraordinary opportunity, and skills like, think the cognitive skills like judgment, discernment, governance, trust, these types of skills become more and more and more important. And so it gives us an opportunity. I know several of the speakers have been talking about the value chain. Gives us a real opportunity to actually move our teams up the actual value chain, which I think is really powerful. And so for organizations, it becomes about how do we want to not just digitize work, but how do we redesign work? How do we think about people and capabilities and ways of working all together, and allow our teams to do higher value work? So one of the things that I think leaders and business leaders need to be thinking about is AI is going to create capacity, right? It's going to create space. And how you actually fill that space really matters. So that's the value creation comes in the choice that you make and how that space in the capacity actually gets filled.
Right. No, thank you. And maybe if I could do a follow-up on that, and if you could give me an example of the kind of work that the additional capacities come in, that people can take up in the sort of industry that you're in, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I've actually been talking about this example quite a bit this week. So we're talking about roadmaps, right? So it's not too far in the past where you would have a 5-year roadmap for technology. And what we're talking about right now is imagine a world where that 5-year roadmap actually gets delivered in 2 years instead. Imagine the possibilities that you can unlock when you can actually create speed to impact and value creation because of what you can accelerate. I think other things that we spend time on with our team is where they can use discernment, judgment, again, the connection and the creativity to make more impactful and meaningful experiences for our guest and consumer. So how does technology in our retail stores actually free up our team members to interact with our guests, which fundamentally drives a better experience for them too. So those would be a couple examples.
That's a great example. And you know, sometimes there's a lot of delay between your imagination and the impact. And now what AI does is to actually accelerate the difference between imagination and impact. And so you can learn faster, do more. Yeah, that's a great example. You've been part of this entire narrative of GCC in India, set it up from the start, from your time together with Target and so on. Every time you listen to an analyst speak, I don't know if they've made up their mind on whether it's good news or bad news for GCCs because AI is here. But given that AI can do a lot of what people at large were able to do you see this as a boon or a bane for where we are with GCCs?
So thank you for your question, and I think it's a very interesting question, and I'll answer this in a few different ways. Just to put things in perspective, last year alone, we did 61 GCCs in 1 year, and 80% of them had AI-first mandates. So the primary reason they were being set up was to help organizations embrace and adopt AI. Now that's a big game changer. AI in some ways, and I think Ravi spoke about it in his talk as well, is going to be the biggest change management challenge of all times, right? So I guess where GCCs have a play is being that change accelerator for enterprises. One of the premises is that there is no legacy from a thought process perspective. You're starting clean, and therefore, they are the right form and structure to help organizations, effectively embrace AI over a period of time. We're also talking of, obviously, skill and talent and capabilities, and I guess that's, the advantage that we have. So we'll see more and more, enterprises using the GCC model to, make or to bring AI to life. Just to give you an example, last year alone, we hired about 2,500 AI engineers for companies to essentially get them started. So I think there is short term, and in the AI timeline, there is no long term, right? So I guess from a now perspective, we're seeing a lot of tailwinds, whether it's helping from a talent at scale perspective, or just the fact that you can help organizations embrace the challenge, or just put the whole GCC model on its head, create a whole lot of new job families. At some point, we all know software will write itself, right? So you don't need engineers to do the work. We were traditionally setting up GCCs. But I guess where GCCs are different from the, let's say, other forms of leveraging global talent is context, as an example, right? I mean, GCCs are contextual powerhouses, and AI is going to be all about, how do you, benefit from people who have the context. Finally, I guess there are going to be 4 Ws at play, when we talk about at-scale adoption of AI. So there's work to be done. In as much as there's so much happening in the world of AI, I guess until some of these 4 things fall in place, there's still going to be a wide gap between, AI adoption and just the power and the possibilities of AI. So the work itself needs to be reimagined. So the first W is going to be work. How do you recompose, decompose, reimagine work? Because work as we do today and much of that work is not ready for AI. The second is who does that work, right? So we got to have some of these models come into being, human in lead, AI agents, hybrid models, and so on. There'll be a number of different permutations and combinations. The third part is going to be ways of working, because AI would mean we got to change the way work gets done. And fourth is going to be where the work gets done, right? Which again, is going to be very conducive to the GCCs because of legacy, of the fact that you don't have to drive any change because you have scale, because you can very quickly, on the fly, create new job families like, prompt engineers as an example, right? So I guess now, short term, maybe near midterm, and I don't think we can look beyond that. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for GCC. So we are betting big that the best of, GCCs is yet to come.
That's such a thoughtful and comprehensive answer, Lalit. Thank you so much. I again had a quick follow-up to you. As you were speaking, I was thinking that one of the distinct advantages we have is our talent. and the ability to upgrade the talent in the ecosystem. I'm not talking within the organizations, but just the talent ecosystem. Are we set up right for that? Let's say our colleges, our universities, etc. What do you think should change to ensure that we sustain that talent advantage?
So, I mean, AI fluency, literacy, we all talk about is going to be an important imperative. I guess we've started early. There is a lot of awareness. There is a lot being done. Earlier we heard the minister talking about, what the Karnataka government is doing. So I guess, there's a spectrum of talent. We have obviously highly capable talent. They'll get the ball rolling. But I guess we have some time to get, the larger pool, ready. And I think there's enough going on in the ecosystem to get us there.
Excellent. Thank you. Amarpreet, I'm going to build on what Ravi said earlier about taking the people along with us, what Lalit just spoke about shifting the way we work as an organization and as HR leader. A lot of it comes down to how we imagine culture, skill, talent, etc. What are your learnings and what are some of your observations around how to prepare the workforce of today to some of these changes that we are seeing?
Thank you, first of all, and a pleasure to be a part of such a esteemed gathering and the group of people that I've been listening to. First of all, I think it's absolutely fabulous to listen to and understand the fact that people are embracing this change very, very beautifully. So that's my first reflection out here, in a room full of people. What I do want to call out here, as an HR leader and all of us as leaders in our own right, I think the whole space of embracing this beautiful, disruptive technology of AI is something for us to, not just be aware of, be mindful of, but, live with it and be with it as we move along. An analogy that I can think of, and of course, Copilot is a tool I'm sure all of us would be using today. But, if you are the pilot, you will have a co-pilot, and that's only going to augment the way you're going to function. If we understand that as a pilot in the seat, as the human in the center, if we have that co-pilot, and that co-pilot is really going to, make you more efficient, more capable, and augment everything that you're able to deliver, that's how we have to see this entire engine running. And if you have to run your plane smoothly, identify what are those advantages that your co-pilot can help you with, understand what it can really do for you, but still be that pilot in the seat. If you are that pilot, you will be able to, be ahead of the game, ahead of the curve in every aspect of your delivery, the impact that you can make. So I think as leaders, it is in the culture that we are able to shape, the whole ecosystem that we are able to shape can all happen by, having that pilot mindset with that co-pilot as your AI agent or your AI, efficient tool that we can think of. Looking at one example that I can share with all of you from an AstraZeneca perspective, an organization that absolutely is in the space of life-changing medicines. The whole purpose is about transforming patient outcomes and to ensure that you are able to reach the life-changing medicines much faster to your patients. How do you look at a purpose like that and use AI to, get to your patients faster? So if as organizations we are able to connect that larger purpose with that vision and that vision with the final business impact and outcome, if you're able to create that entire, vision and bring that to reality, all of it will happen in its own space. From a skilling perspective, I think, again, an example from AstraZeneca that I can share is a space where we're looking to integrate and build an entire enterprise AI unit, which will, participate in the entire life cycle of how a drug is, not just discovered, but reaches to a patient at the end of the day. Because if you have to save a patient's life, you need to move faster, you need to research faster, you need to develop that and bring that to a patient much, much faster. How can AI do all of that? And today, if you treat that as a threat, you're not going to really do anything about it. But if you treat that as your co-pilot, you will be able to deliver those medicines so much faster to patients. So the skilling or the reskilling that all of us are talking about is such an important aspect. And like I said, the example that I can share is, within the organization, we are over 1 lakh people, but within that, about 75,000, which is 75% of the organization, is already moving ahead on the journey of being AI literate. When I say that, moving the needle from certification processes, looking at, certifications right from what is called a bronze to a silver to a gold to a platinum certifications, which means a person who's platinum certified can actually build his own agent and can use that for their own work. That's the kind of literacy we're trying to build, and I'm sure organizations in their own right and capacity are doing it, because there is no other way out. You have to use that to augment the way we all function and potentially use it in the best manner possible. So I would say, having the human in the loop, being in the center pilot seat is something that all of us need to really be there and use a co-pilot to enable all of this to happen.
Excellent. And the point about skilling is true, but I'm so glad you touched upon the point of purpose, because when change happens so quickly, oftentimes it's disorienting. And so when you realign that on the purpose of what you want to achieve, it becomes a lot more easier on then what are the problems to solve. Yeah?
And I think as business leaders, just a point that I want to make, many of us, I think 95% of the audience here are business leaders and not HR leaders. As business leaders, if all of us are able to connect that purpose and the business outcome that we are able to achieve at the end of the day, all of it will be able to embrace it beautifully and, put the nail right on the head.
So that is the silver bullet. Okay. Sunil, earlier when we were speaking, you were talking about yourself as a builder. And sometimes when new technologies and things come in, the possibilities are endless. And you are in an industry where you can create, to build on what Andrea said earlier, unique experiences for your B2B, B2C clients. What are possibilities that you're seeing given where we are today?
Yeah, great question. See, the space that we are in is very, very complex, right? We've got e-commerce, we have got retail, we have B2C as a business. Clearly, people buy things from us, from retail stores. We also have B2B. We buy from other vendors, suppliers. It's a massive organization, logistics. We are a 150-year-old, $100 billion revenue, annually company. It's a massive, complex business. And so far from what I've seen, there is opportunities both in B2B, B2C and B2B for us in the entire value chain. It could be anything, something simple like, for example, anticipatory intelligence, right? What I mean by that is, let's say AI figures out you've run out of milk this week. Before even you go in there and search for milk, it places an order on your behalf, right? So that now you're delighting customers, right? You're taking them from having to do things to have delightful experiences, improves the brand. That's just one example. Another one could be just to remind the family that, hey, you have a birthday for your kid coming up. So let me sort of remove all the stress of planning for your kid's birthday, which is a huge amount of stress, right, for parents, and say, tell me your budget, tell me how many kids are coming, and I know how old your kid is, and I'll figure out all the planning for you, right, from ordering the food to planning for it, building a basket, ordering, and so on and so forth. And really, this is not necessarily even a nice to have for us. This is a must have, right? Because if you want to engage customers, grow our e-commerce business, build the trust, build a sense of delight, these are experiences that are going to become fundamental to the fabric of how we do business and not some nice to have that shows up occasionally. So that's one example. And same thing even on the B2C, B2B side, right? We've got this complex supply chain where we have other vendors that we procure products from, and they have to have their backend, which is manufacturers who are actually manufacturing this. So any changes in demand from a consumer side needs to percolate in the value chain all the way to the suppliers, to manufacturers. And so having AI form a role, have a very central role where it's making sure this sense of demand percolates the entire supply chain so that everybody is efficient and there's no wastage of products. And a lot of products we deal with are perishable products. You can't afford to make mistakes in demand planning, supply planning, pricing, things like that. So this is extraordinary value for us in the entire value chain.
And I want to build on something that Lalit said as a follow-up question to you, Sunil, because a lot of times such innovation becomes clearer when you understand the context of your customer really well. Sometimes as GCCs, there is a certain gap between the customers we serve and where we are. As a leader of a unit of people, how do you see ourselves bridge this gap, and what should we do from an operating model point of view to be able to build it?
Sure, very good question. I actually think that we are right now, again, I'm generalizing on behalf of all GCs, but let's say it's more weighted towards our particular context. It is that GCC 2.0 or 3.0 has arrived, as in the business context of the senior leadership teams that are in the GCCs has been structurally changed to be inclusive of the business context of the entire company. Right? And many of the leadership teams that are here in Bangalore for us are global leaders, which means they have teams globally, they have business teams, operations teams, technology teams reporting into them. Some of us are part of presenting to the board. We are part of the executive management team. So business context flows in naturally. There's not even an extra effort that needs to be made to be part of the decision-making leadership team. So I don't think that's so much of a problem at all in today's day and age from our context.
Excellent. I know we have limited time, so I just want to see if there are any pressing questions from the audience. Maybe we can take one or two before we bring this to a close, because I know time is limited. Yes, sir. If somebody can get a mic to the front of the room, please. Okay, I'm just going to be dynamic and give you my mic, and we can take it from there.
That's better and fast. Thank you very much for very enlightening views. As most of the, I won't say most, significant number of roles in GCCs today being at risk due to automation and AI, what should the GCCs be doing in terms of the talent management so that AI becomes as an augmentation rather than replacing capabilities? Second corollary to this question would be, maybe Lalit or Amar or Andrea, you can answer this, is that how we are talking about the AI literacy, AI fluency, but what about the mindset shift that Ravi was earlier mentioning about? So tomorrow I come to office and I'm not, say, reporting to Amar, but I'm reporting to an AI agent. How will that mindset shift happen? Or people, today I have 10 people reporting to me, tomorrow I have 50 agents and only 2 people reporting to me.
See, I have a slightly different view of the problem statement. I don't think although I must tell you this, that I happened to meet Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, in their annual conference last year in Mumbai. And, one of us in the panel asked him this question: what do you see the role of humans in an agentic AI world? He said, don't worry, we'll all be HR managers of AI agents, right, in the near future. Now, that said, I don't think we are in that scenario. Let me tell you something about AI itself, right? The same AI that we are seeing unleashed today, I was working on building some of these AI systems 30 years ago. And a secret, my dad told me he was also working on AI 60 years ago, right? So the journey of AI has been for the last 60 plus years. It is just that the value has been unlocked right now because it's accessible to all of us through tools like ChatGPT and so on and so forth. So I see at least another 10, 20-year journey of humans being able to leverage AI to build world-class tools, lot more powerful application. I mean, just look at how long it took for automated cars. Today, if you go to San Francisco, you'll see Waymo cars, that driverless cars driving people around. It took 20 years plus, right? So I think we're going to see another 20 years where people are going to build massive applications, right? They're going to become a superhuman version of themselves and amplify themselves for the next 20, 30 years before we even have to answer the question of what happens to human beings. I think we're barely scratching the surface here, in terms of how we are going to leverage AI. So I really do not see that scenario happening for the next decade at least, couple of decades.
And on a lighter note, I still can't imagine reporting to an AI boss, but I can imagine myself, supervising an agentic AI tool. So I think it is for us, and if human is in the center and in the loop and in the pilot seat, probably, we'll define what it needs to be rather than AI defining the way we work. So that's just on a lighter side. But I think from a talent perspective, that's how the strategies have to be laid out in terms of how we lay it out on the table. And and how we define those job specs. How we define that, today, let's say you have a task of an operator or a generalist or an individual who makes your powerful, PowerPoint presentations. Tomorrow, it's an ability to have an efficient individual who's smart, can think smartly, and dictate terms to enable that output to happen. So I think it's a lot of that skill and the whole mindset that has to shift rather than being a line direct reportee to a boss who is an AI agent, I would say.
So I've started getting signals that we are on our time. So one last quick response from all of you on one question. If we were to meet again 2 years later in a panel like this, what would we say about where the world is, both in terms of where talent is and where business is, post the 2 years of AI?
This might not be popular, but I'll try. 2 years from now, I predict that we're not actually having standalone conversations about AI. I think we're going to be talking about the organizations that best paired AI with their humans. I think we're going to be talking about organizations that use this as an opportunity to redesign rather than just digitize. I think we're going to be talking about leaders who lead entirely differently, who create space for experimentation and creativity and failure. And I think we're going to be talking about teams that embrace change and curiosity. And I think it's going to all converge in a way that is interesting and exciting, but we have to lean into it.
Thank you. Lalit?
So, as I said earlier, I think 2 years is a very long time, in the AI timeline. But I guess one thing I can talk about is the fact that there would be a widening gap between the power of AI and its adoption, right? So adoption is going to, for some time, lag the power. I mean, the amount of compute and the maturity of the models and our ability to orchestrate across those models, right, is going to be massive. So I guess the challenge is going to be our ability to catch up, to keep pace with the power of AI, to have, responsible, use cases. I guess, one possible scenario is going to be how AI is going to be used for productivity amplification, for just making life easier, right? I mean, you can be more at ease at work, work can be less stressful because you just have so much of power, in your hands to do work better, faster, with much higher quality. So that's going to be, one possible outcome to the situation all of us don't want to talk about, right? Where there would be headcount, impact, and of course, as we all, at least for now, say, newer jobs will offset any adverse impact of, AI through automation. But overall, I think it's all going to work out well. We are, exciting times ahead, and I guess, we only have, positive things to look forward to.
I agree with you, Lalit. Amar?
So for me, I think when you see today, and nobody today talks about cloud, nobody talks about networks, nobody talks about, these elements of the very, very simple word called internet. Nobody talks about this. It's treated as hygiene. Only when, something really stops is when you wake up and you figure out that it's, I'm not able to browse or my Wi-Fi is suddenly down. I think 2 years from now, I feel that AI would be that infrastructural, inevitable element which will exist and will exist in a space that you would not even realize. It would be a part of all of us. Number two, the part and the manner in which, if all of us as humans will behave properly, I think the part which will really come about is, or turn around, would be responsible AI. If we do what we do in the right, most ethical manner, I think 2 years is long enough for us to figure this out and ensure that it would be responsible, ethical and compliant AI, because every part of the world, has some very important data privacy elements which we have to be mindful of and ensure that everything is really looked after in the right ethical frameworks, and those pieces are really looked after. So I think 2 years will bring in that maturity. Today it's scaling fast, and there may be compromises, if I can call it, but 2 years will bring that maturity of ethical and responsible AI. So that would be the way I see it.
Very, very well said. Sunil.
Well, I think in 2 years we'll be talking about, hey, wow, there's 50 new AI GCCs in Manyata Tech Park. And that is true. I'm an advisor to a robotics startup that's planning to move here. So, that's what we'll be talking about.
Which is why we have claps right at the front of the table.
You know how to play to the room.
Actually.
So, excellent. I know we are at time, but I just want to say that every time when there is a huge transition in humanity, we make a mistake of thinking of people as stomachs and not brains. I'm a huge optimist. I believe that we have the imagination to create far more value than we are giving us credit for. People plus AI is probably the way to go, and it is going to be fluid as we see it. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you.